Okay, everyone at home, this is Mr. Barry coming to you live through the power of the internet. Um, I am going to show you just briefly how to do this worksheet, which is one of the things in the packet. Now, all of the different pages in the packet are very similar. They kind of have you going about this in a very similar way. So the skills that I'm going to show you on this page are going to be applicable to everything in that packet. Um, so let's get started. So we have a note reading worksheet here. So we are going to be looking at where these different notes are on the different lines and trying to name them. First, we're going to start off here with just the notes that appear in the treble clef and on a line. And then later, we'll go down here to notes that again appear only on the treble clef but are on spaces. So let's do a couple of these from the line section. So we can see in this example up at the top, it goes ahead and names all of the different notes on all the different lines, starting off here with the note on the bottom line, which is E, and it kind of writes out every good boy does fine. That's because the first line is E, the second line is G, the third line is B, the fourth is D, and the fifth is F. So if I ever see a note appear on the top line like this one, that means it's an F note. So for instance, let's go to our first question here. And what this is asking you to do is underneath each note to write what the letter name is that's associated with where that is on the staff. So in this first example, let me see if I can zoom in. I cannot. In this first example, because this note here, sorry for my bad drawing, because that first note is on the top line, this note is also on the top line, and if I look, what is it called? It is called an F. So I would write the letter F underneath that note. The next one is on the fourth line, and so I can look back up to the top and see which of my notes, and it's this one is on the fourth line. That is a D, and so I would write D underneath. And you just go through the rest of the exercise in the same way. The next note is on the third line. If I look back at the top, the third line is a B. So I'm just matching and going along. And I can see again from the beginning, my next note is on the top line. I've already written that one down, so it should be pretty easy. I know that's an F, right? I'm going to do a few more examples, but each time all I'm doing is checking which line the note is on and then looking back up at the top because it gives me some examples. My next note is on the fourth line, and that is a D, because I can see from the top. Next one is the third line. I can tell every good boy, that's a B. On the second line, every good is a G, right? And again, I'm looking up here each time to see where the note is. And this is the last example I'm going to do on these set of questions. It is on the fourth line, and again, when I look back up to the top, I can see that the fourth line is a D note. And I write that underneath, right? Easy enough, and you can do the rest of those. So now let's go on to the next questions. So the next questions are asking you about spaces. So this time, instead of naming notes that are on the lines, we're now naming notes that are on the spaces. And in exactly the same way, it has shown us what those notes are and how we name the notes depending on what space they're in. So this first note here, that I'm putting brackets around right now, it's on the first space on the treble clef, and that is an F note. The note on the second space is an A note. The third space is a C note, and the fifth space is an E note. And you notice that if you start off with the first and then like name them up, first space, second space, third space, fourth space, it spells the word face, F-A-C-E. So F is the first space, A is the second space, C is the third space, and E is the fourth space. And again, I'm going to rinse, slather, and repeat. So for this next set of questions here, I am going to just again write the note name underneath the note. So which note is this first one? Let's see. It's on the first space, and we know when we look back up, and again we're going to go back and reference this chart here. When I look back up, I can see that if it's in the first space, it is an F. And so, surely enough, I'm going to write an F. The second space, if I look back up, is, from my example, it shows me it's an A. The third question, again, asks me what is the first one, and I can look back at the work I did earlier to check my work, and I know that's an F. Right? And so I can double check my own work, and then I can look back up at the example. And then I have one on the third space, so if I reference the beginning again, I can double check. That is a C. Yeah? Now some of these, there's only so many spaces, but it's asking you a lot of time, so you can quickly fill many of these out. So I already filled this one out earlier. This was an A. I just filled that one out with a C. I just filled that one out with an A. And what is this top space? If I'm unsure, I can check the chart right above, and it shows me that that is an E. Cool. Okay. For the last examples that I'm going to give you, I'm going to go over a couple of the questions at the very bottom. So now, instead of just doing the lines or just doing the spaces, it's going to do a combination. So you're going to be checking this chart, and you're going to be checking this chart. So your eyes are going to be looking around a little bit if you're unsure, but you can remember in your head for the lines, bottom to top, it's every good boy does fine. And for the spaces, starting at the bottom and on the way up, it's F-A-C-E, it spells face. So again, if I'm referencing that chart above, and I'm going to do a couple of examples for you, I know that the third line is a B, because every good boy does fine. The top space is an E. And again, all I'm doing is referencing the chart above every single time. The second space is A, and the fourth line is D. Right? And you just go through and do the rest of them in the same way. The only difference in the packet is that it's not always the treble clef, which is what I'm circling right now. So if you get to a page that does not have that at the beginning, this symbol, I'm going to draw it again right here. If that is not the symbol at the beginning, that means the notes might be in slightly different places. So for each sheet, it really will help you out a lot if you check these charts. Most of the sheets have a chart that reminds you where the note names are for every single one, so it should be fairly easy as long as you're checking the chart. Okay, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, of course, you can email me at kyle.berry@myrvla.org. I will write it here at the bottom. This is my email, KYLE.BERRY@myrvla.org. Okay, everyone, I hope you stay healthy, and good luck with all your work.